April 20th, 2010. A routine day on an oil rig became the worst environmental disaster in United States history. But it was only the beginning. A sudden explosion, workers trapped in flames, and then something that should not have happened. From that moment, the disaster threatened not just the Gulf, but the entire ocean. It is a fact that at this moment in time, there is more oil in the water than anyone can comprehend. The warning signs appeared weeks before the disaster. In March 2010, engineers at BP raised concerns about the Macondo well, 40 miles off the Louisiana coast. The well was unstable, behind schedule, and over budget by millions, but the pressure to finish was immense. BP wanted the Deepwater Horizon rig moved to its next drilling site. Time was money, and money was everything. April 20th, 2010, 9:45 in the morning. The crew aboard the Deepwater Horizon was preparing to seal the well temporarily. 126 workers were on the rig that day, unaware they were standing above a ticking time bomb. The Macondo well stretched nearly 3 miles beneath the ocean floor, one of the deepest wells ever drilled. For weeks, they had been pumping drilling mud into the well to keep pressure under control. But that morning, something changed. The first test failed. Pressure readings showed something was wrong deep below. Mike Williams, the chief electronics technician, noticed the gauges fluctuating wildly. Other crew members reported unusual readings too. They ran a second test, and it failed as well. BP officials on the rig decided to proceed anyway. They had a schedule to keep. At 5 p.m., as the sun began to set over the Gulf of Mexico, workers started replacing the heavy drilling mud with seawater. This was standard procedure, but only if the well was secure. It was not. Down below, pressure was building. Natural gas and oil were finding pathways through weakened barriers, racing upward through thousands of feet of pipe. At 9:30 p.m., in the drill shack, workers noticed something strange on their monitors. Mud was flowing back up when it should not be. The well was pushing back. Someone radioed the bridge. Before anyone could respond, the rig shuddered. 9:49 p.m. Deep beneath the rig, the pressure became too much. Gas shot up the drill pipe at incredible speed, expanding as it rose. When it reached the surface, it exploded through the derrick in a massive fireball that lit up the night sky for miles. The explosion was so powerful it threw workers across the deck. Men were incinerated instantly. Others were hurled into the darkness. The rig's emergency systems failed. Alarms blared, but many never heard them over the roar of flames and the screaming of metal being torn apart. Mike Williams was in his quarters when the first blast hit. The lights went out. The walls buckled. He ran toward the bridge, passing scenes of horror. Colleagues covered in blood. Equipment twisted like paper. Flames everywhere. The heat was so intense it melted steel. On the bridge, chaos. The captain tried to activate the blowout preventer, a safety device 5 stories tall on the ocean floor, designed to seal the well in emergencies. He pressed the button. Nothing happened. He tried again and again. Later investigations would reveal the device had been poorly maintained and had a dead battery. The one thing that could have stopped this disaster was broken. Another explosion rocked the rig. This one was even more violent. A massive column of fire shot hundreds of feet into the air. Workers scrambled for lifeboats, but the flames had engulfed the escape routes. Some had no choice but to jump. From a platform 10 stories high, they leaped into the dark, cold water below, praying they would not be pulled under by the rig's suction or burned by flaming oil on the water's surface. Andrea Fleitas, a 23-year-old bridge officer, was one of the last to abandon ship. She helped coordinate the evacuation even as the floor beneath her feet began to buckle. When the order came to abandon the rig, she jumped. The fall seemed endless. When she hit the water, the impact knocked the wind from her lungs. Around her, the ocean was on fire. For 2 days, the Deepwater Horizon burned. News helicopters captured footage that shocked the world. A massive oil rig engulfed in flames, black smoke billowing thousands of feet into the sky, and beneath it all, something far more sinister. Oil was pouring from the broken well at the ocean floor, gushing at a rate no one could accurately measure. On April 22, 2010 at 10:22 in the morning, the Deepwater Horizon collapsed into the Gulf of Mexico. As it sank, it tore away the riser pipe connecting it to the wellhead, creating new ruptures. Now there were multiple leak points, all hemorrhaging crude oil into the ocean. 11 workers were dead, 17 were injured. But the disaster was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. 87 days. That is how long oil spewed into the Gulf. Every single day, millions of gallons of crude oil poured from the ocean floor. BP tried everything. They attempted to activate the blowout preventer remotely. It failed. They lowered a massive containment dome over the leak. Ice-like crystals formed and clogged it. They tried pumping heavy mud and debris into the well to plug it. That failed too. Meanwhile, the oil kept coming. It formed a slick that eventually covered an area the size of West Virginia. Thick, toxic crude washed up on beaches across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. White sand turned black. The smell of petroleum hung in the air for months. The impact on wildlife was devastating. Pelicans with their feathers coated in oil were unable to fly or feed. Sea turtles struggled to breathe through oil-clogged nostrils. Dolphins washed up dead on beaches with their lungs filled with crude. Fish populations collapsed. Entire ecosystems were poisoned. Fishing communities that had existed for generations were destroyed overnight. Shrimpers watched their livelihoods die as the government closed vast stretches of Gulf waters to fishing. Tourism vanished. Hotels sat empty. Restaurants closed. Lives unraveled. BP sprayed nearly 2 million gallons of chemical dispersants into the Gulf, trying to break up the oil. But these chemicals were toxic too, creating a different kind of poison that sank to the ocean floor and contaminated habitats for decades to come. July 15, 2010. After 87 agonizing days, BP finally capped the well. By then, an estimated 210 million gallons of oil had poured into the Gulf of Mexico. The cleanup would cost over $65 billion. The environmental damage was incalculable. Investigations revealed a cascade of failures. BP had cut corners to save time and money. The blowout preventer had known defects. Warning signs were ignored. Safety tests were skipped. Workers' concerns were dismissed. 11 men died because profit was valued over safety. The Gulf Coast would never be the same. Even today, tar balls still wash ashore. Oil remains buried in the sand and mud. Marine populations have not fully recovered. Some species never will. The Deepwater Horizon disaster taught a brutal lesson. When we drill deeper, reach farther, and push harder for resources, the price of failure becomes catastrophic. 11 chairs sit empty at family tables. An ocean was poisoned, and the scars remain, a reminder that some disasters do not end when the flames go out. They linger in the water, in the land, and in the memory of those who survived.